How's it? This is Dominic Oliver, and you're watching Joburg Today.
Various parts of Gauteng were left devastated yesterday as a result of severe thunderstorms that hit the province. Usually, this time of the year has been touted as thunderstorm season. Now, these storms are usually very severe. The South African Weather Services had warned Johannesburg residents to prepare themselves for storms since last week already. Several images and videos have emerged online showing roofs blown off and fallen trees in numerous areas. Strong winds have been reported, as well as one tornado that caused damage to cars and buildings. Thankfully, no one was fatally injured. Emergency Services says they were prepared for action.
What's the date today? My life.
It's the 9th.
The 9th. I thought my life is coming to an end. This is what we had to go through.
Robert, thank you so much for your time today. We really want to chat to you about the current storm situation in Johannesburg. It's been very serious, strange weather we're having in Joburg. Yeah. How serious has it been in Johannesburg in terms of damage, in terms of fatalities, injuries?
Yes, indeed. At around lunchtime, we started seeing those signs of, some rainfall coming down. In the area of Zandspruit, there was a tornado which ripped through the area and affected a number of households in the area, some vehicles damaged, and also a number of houses and also shacks which were damaged when some of the trees fell into these houses and also shacks. Most roads throughout the city of Johannesburg were reported to have flooded, but we're just happy that we didn't have any fatalities, around the severe storms which you have been receiving in the city. Yes.
Well, that is very encouraging. The incidents that you mentioned, these incidents took place yesterday, during yesterday's storms.
Yes.
What about over the weekend? We had heavy rain, very heavy rain over the weekend as well.
Over the weekend we had heavy rainfalls also, but it was only along London Road in Alexander where we had to close that part of Jackskay. Jackskay is just cutting across London Road in Alexander. So the water levels were higher that we had to close that area, but we didn't have to evacuate people in those areas. And you will recall that when we have these weather conditions in Johannesburg, specifically we have about 189 informal settlements throughout the city. So those will be the hardest hit areas like Stwetla, Deep Slot, Kaya Sand. So those were the areas we were monitoring last night because there's a lot of people who are staying alongside the river banks. So the fortunate part was that last night we didn't have any reports. Maybe because the resident couldn't get a hold of us. So what we have done today, we've dispatched monitoring teams in those areas to assess the damages so that we can maybe put up a list of everybody who have been affected so that we can be able to activate other stakeholders like housing, community development, JRA and the others so that we can work together to assist those affected residents. Yeah.
How do you work on the ground, dispatching people to ensure that there are no fatalities, to ensure that people are evacuated to safer areas? Give us a sense of that.
Yeah, from our side, as the emergency services in Joburg, we've got a public education section which on a day-to-day basis deals with education, making sure that our residents are empowered, be it fire, safety, education, basic first aid and things like that. So our communities in the informal settlements, what we have done, because we knew that we were going to have this thunderstorm season, we have embarked on our community outreach programs where we train our communities on disaster preparedness, we train them on how to evacuate, the safe use of whistles and things like that. So what we have done specifically in those areas where we know, like Stwetla, where the people are staying in the river banks, we have done that. And we've encouraged them to move at least away from, the river stream itself.
Well, then we must commend the emergency services for doing a stellar job, especially in the communities, in the informal settlements, which are the hardest hit, as you've pointed out. I know you're not a meteorologist or weather specialist, but have you received any more warnings from the weather center? Can we expect more storms this week? Is the situation expected to continue?
Yeah, we got a message. Actually, we're getting messages almost on a day-to-day basis. But now for today, we got a message that we might be you know, having a break with the severe rainfalls for today, maybe up until towards the end of the week. However, you know, weather, it might change. So from our side, we're being proactive enough to say, we've already issued a couple of warnings before. Even last night, before the thunderstorm, we issued a warning to say, let's take the South African Weather Service warning messages seriously. There's a whole lot of messages which are going out there, especially in our social media, because our social media gets abused, you know, most of the time, especially when it comes to these sensitive issues like weather conditions and things like that. So we're saying to our residents, respect the messages from the South African Weather Service, because the South African Weather Service is the only authoritative voice according to, you know, the weather conditions and also the climate warnings. So they need to respect those messages. And we already entered the thunderstorm season. So meaning that, unlike before where we have been caught unprepared, we've had a number of incidences where we had, you know, houses being damaged, vehicles being swept away, people losing their lives because we were not prepared. We didn't really know. Now, educationally, we have trained our communities and residents about disaster preparedness. Motorists, every time we're urging them to make sure that they work with us. So going forward, we're just hoping that we will be able to prevent some of the incidences which might occur when we have wet weather conditions like this one. I must also commend the residents, most especially in the city of Johannesburg. Yes, we had a number of you know, incidences where there were damages, but generally, I mean, if you're looking at about 3.5 to 4 million people who are residing in the city of Johannesburg, and then we didn't even have one fatality. We just all had those 2 people who were injured. I think we must
and you think that is commendable in terms of precautions taken?
Yes,
and behavior?
Exactly. I think also the platforms we get, like the one we have now, you know, television, social media, we appreciate it because our people are now, you know, everybody's got at least a smartphone out there.
Yeah.
You know, you can be able to send messages on Facebook, Twitter, television, and things like that. So we appreciate the platforms like this where we get to communicate with our residents. And when they do wrong, we will, you know, condemn them, their behavior. But when they do right, we'll appreciate what they do. So from our side, because as an emergency services, we cannot be judged by the number of incidences we respond to, but we must be judged by the number of incidences we prevent. So we're happy that our communities are working with us. We need to find a situation where we become jobless. I'm requesting the resident of the city of Johannesburg to make myself jobless by making sure that they look after themselves.